Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Monday, the 20th day of January, 2025. And welcome to an entire new era for the United States and the entire world because we're entering uncharted territory right now. Our top story today: Donald Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States of America. Shock and awe are Trump's plans to kickstart his second term. The ceasefire in Gaza has begun. Israel has released 90 Palestinian security prisoners in exchange for three female hostages. However, thousands of Hamas fighters emerged from Gaza tunnels, showing that they never lost control. Hamas spokesman calls for the West Bank escalation following the ceasefire agreement. That's Judea, Samaria, not the same geographical area as Gaza, as it seeks to project enduring strength. And here's the real worry: Hamas says it will abide by the truce if Israel does. Then finally, Trump envoy plans to visit Gaza. Mulls relocation for Gazans to help rebuild. And good luck for that. All right, so now we begin the period where there's so many unknowns. Let's look at it and kind of summarize where we're at. First headline: Donald Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States today. Shock and awe are his plans to kickstart his second term. He plans sweeping one-day executive orders, hardline immigration policies, mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, banning transgender women in sports and the military, freeing many of the January 6th rioters, and slashing funds for schools with vaccine mandates. During his presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly said his intention was to sign at least 100 executive orders immediately after his inauguration. I've heard as many as 200. Anyway, he has a lot of work to do to fix the so many mistakes that have been made in the last 4 years. We're going to keep you posted on his actions, which touch last day's Bible prophecy, because that's what we do here on Breaking News. The only stories we do have something to do with what the Bible says our world is going to be like at the time of the end of this age, before the second coming of Jesus Christ and the many events that will precede it. So that's why we emphasize these stories and these stories alone. All right, headline number two: the ceasefire has indeed begun. It began yesterday. Israel released 90 Palestinian security prisoners in exchange for three female hostages. The three hostages were released by the terrorist group Hamas as Israel released its first batch of 90 Palestinian security prisoners. However, and if you've seen the pictures, they were not very pretty. Amid thousands of armed terrorists, hostages released to the Red Cross, the families celebrate. Surrounded by armed terrorists, hostages were handed over to the Red Cross in central Gaza in a grim display by Hamas. Despite the unsettling scene, relief and joy prevailed as the women freed, ending 471 days of captivity and harrowing conditions. The emotional return of these three innocent young ladies caused the entire nation to rejoice. However, ahead of the return of the Israeli hostages, the first round of Palestinian prisoners were released. Again, some 90 of them. Those 90 released include 69 women, one minor, eight male minors, and 12 men sentenced for relatively minor offenses like incitement, identifying with terrorism, and disorderly conduct, according to Ynet News. But herein lies the problem. A total of almost 2,000 inmates are set to be released during this first 6-week phase of the ceasefire deal, and this includes a number of mass murderers. We kid you not, a number of people who've committed mass murder are agreed to be released by Israel if the truce holds. Now, there is another problem. Headline number three: Hamas emerges from the Gaza tunnels, showing that it never lost control. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Hamas has impressive control over every aspect of Gaza, from local media to hospitals and schools. It will galvanize all of this to help portray this as a victory for the group. There's a story the other day that Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority are going to govern Gaza, which is a joke. There's not a chance in the world that's going to happen. All right, but here's what happened. Hamas appears to be emerging from tunnels and rubbles in Gaza to show that they never lost control of the most of the area despite 15 months of war. Now, they've suffered many blows from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, but they were able to recruit new members and even keep trucks and vans ready to return to the streets and show its presence. Videos purported to be from Gaza show the group in white pickup trucks driving around. The videos show large group of armed men waving to crowds or standing and sitting on vehicles and are parading them through the streets. Hamas police, an arm of the terrorist group, are also reappearing. They've been around throughout the war, but their presence has not been clearly felt. In other words, Hamas has not been defeated by any stretch of the imagination. Recall that some 40% of their tunnels have not been found or explored. We mentioned at the very beginning of this, the Israeli intelligence thought there was 100 miles of tunnels underneath Gaza. They found it's more like 500 miles of tunnels, and 40% of them still have not been found or explored. Now, here's what's interesting. The Hamas spokesman called for West Bank's escalation following the ceasefire agreement. It's also from the Jerusalem Post. In a pre-recorded speech delivered through Hamas's outlets, Al Jazeera, spokesman Abu Obaida also lauded Iran and its proxies and warned against attempts to integrate Israel in the region. Now, look for there, and here's the key, to be numerous incidents of terrorism in Judea and Samaria. Now, this is a separate geographical area than Gaza, the so-called West Bank. These incidents will be separate from what does happen in Gaza, and by having these incidents of terrorism in the West Bank, that is not basically breaking the ceasefire in Gaza. Now, here's the one that's the most worrisome of all. Headline number 5, as it seeks to project enduring strength, Hamas says it will abide by the truce if Israel does. Spokesman Hamas from Hamas's video statement shortly after the release of 3 Israeli hostages comes as Hamas men parade in the streets throughout Sunday. In other words, they're coming out of the tunnels now because the fighting's over. There's ceasefire. Hamas spokesman Abu Obaida vowed in a statement on Sunday evening to focus that and said that Hamas would abide by the terms of the hostage ceasefire deal in Gaza as long as Israel does, in a video published shortly after the terror group released 3 civilian women from captivity. The spokesman began his comments by marking Sunday as the 471st day after the start of the Operation Al-Aqsa flood, which ignited the spark of the liberation of Palestine and hammered the last nail into the coffin of Israel. That was his words, obviously. And he's referring to the group's October 7th, 2023 invasion of southern Israel, which killed some 1,200 people, mostly civilians, took 251 hostages, starting the Gaza war. It was named after Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. That's that gray building on the Temple Mount, not the Golden Dome. That's a shrine, not the Dome of the Rock. It's further to the south. It's a gray building at the southern end of the Temple Mount, and so that is the fighting was named after that. Actually, after they started fighting. Okay, herein lies the problem. Let's just face it. It's a huge one. What if Hamas does abide by the truce and does not fire upon Israel during the 6-week period? What happens then? Now, Netanyahu's been running around saying the war can continue after the first phase of the ceasefire deal. Well, does this mean that they will resume fighting even if Hamas doesn't break the ceasefire? What about the fate of the other hostages that are being held? Because remember, there's 33 hostages that are going to be released in these first 6 weeks, but there's another so-called supposedly 98 that are still being held. What about them? So many unknowns. And finally, headline number 6, the Trump envoy plans to visit Gaza, mulls relocation for Gazans to help rebuild. Steve Witkoff considers visiting Gaza regularly to resolve issues during the implementation of the deal. NBC reports, will Gazans live in Indonesia until Gaza is rebuilt? I mean, this is laughable, but this is what they're suggesting. He's considering visiting Gaza as part of his efforts to preserve the ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas that went into effect at 11:15 a.m. yesterday. Well, actually, it was a little later than that. NBC News reported. And again, good luck trying to pull this off. So to sum up, here's where we're at right now. We have a confusing situation in Gaza. 3 female hostages have been returned. There's supposed to be 33 in total returned by the end of the 6-week period. As far as the remaining hostages, there is nothing but uncertainty, nothing. And we'll keep you posted on any meaningful events that occur. So please, please pray, because so many possibilities of what may happen. We just don't know. For a thorough understanding of what will eventually happen, please see our website, Educating Our World, including the 12 books we have on Bible prophecy, all free for download. Especially see our books, 25 Signs We're Near the End. This will explain what will ultimately take place, though we do not know how it will come about or when it will come about. So we're really in a period of uncertainty with Donald Trump now the president. As of today, later today, he will be sworn into office. And it's going to be wild, gang. It's going to be a wild time. So we'll keep you posted here with what's going on. Like we said, so many uncertainties. The ceasefire has started. Hamas has claimed that they're going to keep to it. And why shouldn't they? Everything is for their benefit if they keep to the 6 weeks. Supposedly, Israel will have to leave Gaza at that period of time. And so we'll see. We just don't know. So please pray. And again, like I said, we'll keep you posted. Again, I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.